Okay. Hi, I'm Kah Mun, and I'm not very good at following instructions. You could give me a list saying, here are 10 things to do in exactly this way and order, and I will be itching to change something. I've always been that way, tossing the map aside and going by intuition. Soon after graduating, I found myself in a great job that charted a very clear map for us to follow. Most of my colleagues thrived in this environment, but I found myself struggling. And I worked really hard at the job, but with every yes and nod of the head and late night, I found myself itching to play outside the lines. And my friends were the first to see the toll it was taking on me. I was overwhelmed, unenthusiastic, and they could see who I was disappearing underneath the exhaustion. But still, I stayed. I told myself, it's a good job, it's good progression, don't quit, don't give up. What would your parents think? What would your colleagues think? You're letting people down, you're letting people down, you're letting people down. And so I decided, yes, I will be letting people down, but if I had stayed, what was worse was that I would be letting myself down. And so I decided to resign. And I wish I could tell you it was easy from then on, but resistance is the overly attached sibling of change, and every step after was hard. I cried while telling my bosses, I cried while writing my resignation letter, and I cried again when I received the approval note and realized I really just did leave my job during COVID. And I traded in structure and clarity for uncertainty and instability. In other words, unemployment. Or as the Gen Zs say it, fun employment. And I did the classic fun employment move. I booked myself a ticket and I left the country with an open map. That became 12 countries, 28 cities in 5 months to recenter myself. And for the first time in my life, I was not living by a single rule set by anybody else. Finally, I was drawing every single line on my map. And I cannot even begin to tell you the miracles that I experienced. By surrendering to the flow with the deepest intentions, I wanted to reconnect with nature, my sense of adventure, my friends abroad that I had not seen in years. With my art practices of writing, photography, video, I wanted to reconnect with myself and what made me itch in a good way. And so I hiked on mountains, and I surfed on waves, and I jumped into rivers, and I climbed up big rocks, and I slept in tents under starry skies, and I ate tomatoes that I had plucked with my own hand. Every day felt like a dream, yet I had never been more awake. As I was journaling more, I realized one key thing that allowed everything to unfold in the way that it did. I gave myself permission. I gave myself permission to dream, and then dream bigger. I gave myself permission to believe that I deserved to live that dream, and I gave myself permission to let people down in pursuit of that. The last one was the hardest for us too. I'm a middle child, and I don't like letting people down. But I'm so glad that I did, because it changed my life, choosing myself. And so as I was journaling, I realized 3 ways that giving yourself permission unlocks the truth. And I wish to share them with you today. First, giving yourself permission unlocks the power that has always been in you. True transformation is not becoming an ideal, it is unbecoming what you are not, and becoming who you know is authentically you. And that's the first step, realizing that something is misaligned. So let's say we're looking at a map, we're climbing a mountain, and you realize that it doesn't match what you see. Or you want to go a different way, or you don't even want to climb this mountain that you are on. Just because the map hasn't followed to a point doesn't mean it has to be followed till the end. And so, just because you don't have to follow it is the power you know. Because power is knowing what you don't want as much as it is knowing what you do want. And so I asked myself a big question before I left my previous company. I asked, do I even want my boss's job? And my inner voice knew the answer long before my brain wanted to admit it. And so my reclaiming of power was letting my actions match my inner voice. And so I gave myself permission to leave my job and not finish the climb. And that leads to part 2. Giving yourself permission to draw your own map means that nobody can invalidate it. When you toss the default map aside and you create a pathway so aligned to you, there will be people who will question your goals and they'll question your means. They'll say, why that mountain? Why this pathway? This one is better. And you'll say, because I said I could. And that is enough. The hardest part about resistance is that it often comes from people who have known you the longest, because it's hardest for them to see that their version of you is changing. But there is power in forgiving dismissals from people who do not share your vision, while finding love and security within yourself to persist on your path. And when you do, there will be people who will also say, this is what you're meant to do. It just feels right and makes sense. And trust me, affirmation that you can believe hits different. And at this point, I want to say that all these powerful realizations and actions don't have to be drastic. I'm not asking you to quit your company, leave your lover, and pack your life into a backpack. Your authentic map would look so different. That may have been what I needed, but follow what you feel you need to. And that could look like accelerating or reversing, or super important is to simply take a pause, to breathe, and exhale. Some of you may have been charging up your mountains at lightning speed. And I tell you from experience, if you do not give yourself permission to rest, nobody will. And then you won't, until you're forced to when you fall ill. And so I invite you to give yourself permission to take that rest, because when you do, you give yourself the chance to look at how far you've come and contemplate what's yet to be explored. And that leads us to part 3. Giving yourself permission allows for detours to be part of success. So often we fixate on a goal and we walk head down in the map until we reach it. But sometimes that focus can be self-sabotaging because we don't see all the other paths that are calling to us. And so when we give ourselves permission to embark on the journey instead of hyper-fixating on the goal, we allow all the opportunities to arise, and we don't let falling down once strike us out. Say, for example, we are sitting on the rock, taking the pause for the first time in a long time, and then it starts raining, like cats and dogs raining. Yes, I said we could draw our own maps, but I didn't say we could control the weather. Life is unpredictable. It's messy. It unfolds in twists and turns. And so often we want to meet life with our strongest face when it needs us to be our softest. In the face of adversity, we tend to buckle down and be super stubborn in our ways, and that's so normal and so valid. It's a coping mechanism to change. But what can be a strength in one season can become a liability in the next. So what is holding you back because you're holding on to it? This could be an idea, a person, a narrative, a habit. And so often we are afraid to let go because we fear that we'll never receive again. But releasing is not being cursed with the void, it's being blessed with new space to receive what will be a better fit. And a better fit can look like dancing in the rain, because that is the embodiment of being flexible. Life unfolds and twists, it's messy. But when it starts raining, you don't curse at the skies. You forgive that plans change, because when you use and reclaim your power, like we did by choosing our mountains and drawing our own maps, we also accept the full responsibility and the consequences. And so we draw our map lines in pencil so we can factor in change, and we keep our footsteps soft so we don't fall too hard when the twigs suddenly give way. And the power of drawing your own map is that you set your own pace. So you can take as long as you need, or go faster than you ever thought you could, or simply take that pause. But always trust that what you dare to release will return more aligned. And so now, my friends, we have arrived at the top of the mountain that we chose, led by the map that we drew, and you can see the full view ahead of you. Some peaks that you climbed, some you didn't, and all you hold in your heart is gratitude, no regret, because you realize you are each and every one of those peaks. You are the whole canyon, every crest and every valley. You are not the single mountain you are climbing right now. You are the multitudes of brave realizations, aligned actions, and detours taken in trust. All because you gave yourself permission to be you. And tying this all together is that change is a choice. When taken, choice becomes action. When practiced, action becomes habit. When repeated, habit becomes personality. And when committed to, personality becomes a lifestyle. And when you make giving yourself permission your lifestyle, it becomes a gift to others. Because you radiate a different energy. And people will see that. You're not letting things happen to you, you're making things happen. They'll be inspired by it. And the beauty of humanity is that we see what we want to see and we mirror what we are ready to be. And I know as I stand here sharing my journey, everyone here imagined your own mountain ranges. And maybe for the first time you thought, I need to try a different path. Or maybe I'm not on the mountain for me. I hope that today you heard a quiet voice that said, maybe we can allow ourselves to try again. Because while it is painful to leave something that you've worked hard for, it is even more painful to give up on a dream that you've never had the chance to work hard on. And so giving yourself permission to live your truth gives others permission to live theirs too. And I thank you for listening to my story, and as I end, I ask you, is your inner voice calling you towards another path? What do you have to release to reclaim your power? And what dream of yours waits for you to draw your own map? When you find your answers, I wish with all my heart that you give yourself permission to go towards the light. Thank you.